The rain fell hard against the windowpane of the small diner tucked away at the edge of town. Maggie wiped down the counter as she had every day for the past 15 years, her motions automatic, her eyes drifting toward the door whenever the bell chimed. Most days, it was the usual: truckers, weary travelers, and locals seeking a warm plate and a familiar face. But 12 years ago, 4 little faces had walked through that door and changed everything. Maggie still remembered the first time they came in. It had been a cold November afternoon, the kind where the chill sank straight through your bones. The girls looked like they'd been walking for miles, drenched, shivering, and clutching one another tightly. The oldest, maybe 10 or 11, tried to act brave, but her lower lip trembled. If you like this story, kindly do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Can we just sit for a while? She had asked, her voice barely louder than the rain outside. Maggie nodded, her heart clenching. Of course, sweetie. You girls sit wherever you'd like. She brought them hot cocoa before they could even ask, then bowls of chicken noodle soup. They didn't have money, that much was clear. But Maggie never mentioned it. She told herself it was just this once, just a warm meal for 4 cold children. But they came back the next day. And the next. And somehow, the weeks became months, and months turned into years. The girls, Emma, Lily, Rose, and Sophie, were sisters, orphaned after a tragic fire that had taken their parents and left them bouncing from one neglectful foster home to another. They'd finally run away, choosing the streets over more abuse. Maggie, a waitress with no children of her own and barely making ends meet, became their safe haven. She never officially adopted them. There were rules, forms, bureaucracy that didn't understand the quiet, desperate love that formed between them. But Maggie fed them. She let them nap in the back booth between shifts. She gave them leftover pies and soup, warm coats from the thrift store, and smiles that told them they mattered. People talked, of course. Some looked down on her for helping strays, others called her an angel. But Maggie didn't do it for praise. She did it because the girls needed her. Because they brought a kind of joy into her lonely world that she didn't know she was missing. And then, just as suddenly as they'd come, they were gone. Emma turned 18 first. She got a job at a grocery store and started saving money. Lily was next, bright and ambitious. She got a scholarship and left for college out of state. Rose and Sophie followed, slowly but surely carving paths of their own. Maggie never asked them to stay. She knew they had lives to live. But when they left, it felt like a part of her heart went with them. They promised to keep in touch, and for a while, they did. Holiday cards, occasional calls, updates about school or work. But over time, life got busy. The calls slowed. The letters stopped. 12 years passed. Maggie aged. The diner grew quieter. The world seemed to move on without her. Until the afternoon, the SUV pulled into the gravel lot outside the diner. It was a sleek black vehicle, the kind Maggie had only seen in commercials. Shiny, polished, expensive. She barely looked up at first, assuming it was just another tourist passing through. Then the door opened, and 4 women stepped out. They were grown now, beautiful and confident. Each carried an air of strength shaped by hardship, but their eyes, those familiar, soulful eyes, hadn't changed. Maggie froze, dishcloth clutched in her hands. "Hi, Maggie," Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. For a moment, time collapsed. Maggie blinked, struggling to connect the elegant women before her with the ragged little girls who had once huddled in her booths. "Girls," she whispered. Rose rushed forward first, throwing her arms around Maggie. Then Lily. Then Sophie. Emma lingered back for a moment, watching with misty eyes, before joining the group hug. Maggie wept, right there in the middle of the diner, surrounded by the only family she had ever known. They stayed for hours, filling the small space with laughter, tears, and stories. Maggie learned that Emma now managed a chain of grocery stores and had used her earnings to support Lily through law school. Lily had recently passed the bar and worked with child advocacy groups, driven by their own experiences in foster care. Rose was an elementary school teacher, and Sophie had become a chef, something Maggie wasn't surprised to hear, given how fascinated she'd always been with the diner kitchen. But the most surprising news came last. "We bought a house," Emma said. "Together." "A big one," Lily added. "Enough rooms for everyone." "In town," Sophie said, beaming. Maggie's brows knitted. "That's wonderful, girls. I'm so proud of you." Emma reached into her purse and pulled out a set of keys. "It's for you." Maggie blinked. "What?" "We want you to live with us," Rose said. "Or near us. Whatever you're comfortable with. But the house is yours. Paid in full." I can't accept that," Maggie stammered, overwhelmed. I only ever wanted you girls to be okay." "And we are," Lily said, tears welling in her eyes. "Because of you. You saved us." Emma placed the keys on the counter. "You fed us when we were hungry. Gave us warmth when the world was cold. You gave us a family when we had none." "We owe everything to you," Sophie said softly. Maggie stared at the keys, her heart pounding. She had lived a simple life, never asked for much, but in that moment, she realized something profound. The love she had poured out so freely had come full circle. She closed the diner early that night. They took her to the new house, a sprawling sunlit home on the outskirts of town, with a garden already blooming and a cozy room set up just for her, filled with books, plants, and a rocking chair by the window. It felt like a dream. Weeks passed. Maggie settled into her new home, surrounded by the laughter and love of the girls she had once fed. They insisted she never worry about money again. In fact, Sophie opened a bakery nearby and named it Maggie's Table, in honor of the woman who had given them their first warm meal and their first sense of belonging. People came from all over to eat there, drawn not just by the food but by the story behind it. Maggie never liked the spotlight, but sometimes when customers asked, she would sit by the fire in the corner of the bakery and tell them the story, not of tragedy, but of hope. Of 4 orphan girls. Of a waitress with nothing but kindness to give. Of how love, when given freely, returns in ways you can never imagine. And every now and then, she'd glance at the door, just as she used to, and smile. Because this time, she wasn't waiting for anyone to come back. They were already home.